What's up, guys? We are back with another Super 7 Ultimates Toxic Crusaders review, and we're taking a look at probably my most anticipated for this wave. We're taking a look at our mutated dog man. We're taking a look at Junkyard. And just like the other figures in this wave, you know, it's an Ultimate, so we still get that same familiar style packaging with the slipcover treatment. So you've got the Toxic Crusaders logo there on the front. You've got the as seen on the screen little call out up top, and then you've got that sort of very 90s look with the colors. Pop that off, and we've got our figure there in the window. You've got the radiation sort of themed packaging. You've got his nameplate bolted on the top there. And then the back of the box, which is consistent across these figures, gives us like a radioactive caution warning style panel. So yeah, let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here we go. Out of the package, our Ultimates Junkyard from Toxic Crusaders, one of the actual Crusaders. And he is what? One of 6 figures that we've gotten so far, and 4 of them are Toxie. But he is probably one of the better figures in this line, and maybe one of the better examples of Ultimates in general lately. This guy very much feels like one of the better Turtles figures, if that makes any sense. You know, Toxic Crusaders and Turtles kind of go together in terms of, you know, their history and the toy aspect of things. And this guy kind of feels like one of those earlier Turtle figures. I do have a couple gripes about this one. One of them is kind of a long-standing thing, and one of them is just a little nitpick kind of a thing. But overwhelmingly, this is a really, really solid figure from just about every perspective. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. He's still an Ultimates figure, so you've got some of those, you know, limitations baked in. We've got a head that can look up and down a little bit. It's not too bad. He does have pretty decent tilt side to side. And then you've got rotation. Now, of course, he's like a hunchback kind of guy, so his head juts forward. So rotating it's going to look kind of weird if you go too far. But it does have some pretty good range overall. I'm happy with that. Arms go out at the shoulders. They, of course, rotate. We've got a bicep swivel. You've got your single-jointed elbow. Gets you about 90 degrees. It also swivels. You've got wrist hinge and rotation. Now, the waist is where I'm going to complain about this figure because it's the same thing that we've seen for a while now. There's really no articulation here outside of a twist. And it's not one of those situations where, like, it probably could be better. There's just nothing here. Like, it's just a straight waist twist. There is no indication that anything else was tried on this one. He cannot bobble up and down, not even in the slightest. He is just torso, hips. Is it the end of the world? Not really. But it's still one of those things. It's like, I would love to see Mythic Legion style articulation here at minimum. If there's not going to be anything else, like, why isn't there just a big ball peg in here that allows some better range? It would help. It's not ruining my enjoyment of this figure by any means, but it would help, and that's about where I stop and start with it now. Legs go out pretty much all the way. They kick forward pretty much all the way as well. They go backwards really far. You do have some shimmy up here at that ball. You've got a single jointed knee, gets you about 90 degrees. Now, he's a dog, so he does have dog-style legs, which means his knees are pretty much always bent. They do twist. You do have a ankle swivel down here. It's hidden at the cuff of those pants, so it's, you know, kind of like a boot cut basically. And then he is a dog, so he still has dog style ankles, but they're built in such a way that he doesn't really have balance issues as a result. So he's got really, really deep hinges down there, and then you've got really good rocker, but he stands just fine. I've had no balance issues with him, and that's always kind of a concern with figures that sort of stand like that, but he does have pretty wide or long feet rather. So it does help to get him some balance where otherwise he might be just sort of standing on his toes. So he is really well articulated. You know, for an Ultimates figure, this guy definitely seems to move a little bit better than average. My only real hesitation on this one is just I wish there was more at that waist. Where I think they killed it, though, is just the visuals. And that's not usually that odd of a thing for me when it comes to Ultimates, but this guy is a little bit better than average. And I find that this figure is, in many ways, kind of an example of what Ultimates can be. They don't have to be the most articulated things ever, but when you sacrifice some articulation, we should be having a better looking figure. And this guy kind of rides that line for me. He does have pretty solid articulation. It's not perfect, but he looks terrific. And I can't stress that enough. This guy looks like he jumped right out of the 90s, looks like he jumped right off a Playmates card. And I'm really happy with that. The colors are super, super saturated and bright and vibrant. You know, some of the gunk and the ooze that's on his clothing is painted. You've got gunk and slime on the fur. The fur is fully painted and washed, so it's really crisp and clean. You've got stuff like the, you know, the chain and then the spiked bracer over here. He's got the belt. This is a separate piece. And this is probably the one thing that I have some concern about. It's technically an accessory because it's something you got to put on. But this thing is as tight as it can be on this figure. I'm super, super concerned that it's either going to pop off or it's going to tear at some point. It should have been, I don't know, 2% longer just to make it so that it's not so tight, because it really does need to be on the figure. It's part of his look for one, but it also helps hide the gap between the torso and the hips. So I'm not too happy with that. I was really worried that I was going to like tear it when I was putting it on. But it does fit him really nice, and it doesn't get in the way of that twist. I just sort of feel like it's, you know, just sort of barely holding on. Like you can see the peg right here. It's just barely holding on. I haven't had it pop off yet, but at the same time, I'm just kind of worried about it. Otherwise, I do think he looks terrific. The colors, again, the colors are 90s, just to the nth degree. They are so bright and vibrant. The sculpt is really well done. It looks gnarly and nasty and just gunky. The tail is all torn up. It's got band-aids on it and bandages. You've got his shirt ripped and the spikes coming out of his back, which I thought was always a cool aspect of this guy, was like these big spines coming out of his back, which was really cool. And then you've got this nasty head sculpt up here. He's got the spiked collar with the dog tags, and it is a separate piece. So if you pop the head off, you can take that off if you desired for some reason. But you've got all these crazy colors up top with the orange hat. You've got the purple and the pink around the gums and the lips, and then this jagged maw of teeth almost. It doesn't open, unfortunately. Like this mouth doesn't open, but we do get an extra head sculpt that's going to give us that opening feature. But I really like the head sculpt. It's just crazy. He looks pretty insane, which is very par for the course when it comes to Toxic Crusader stuff. And I think Super7 did a really solid job here. He's really nicely sized. He's kind of hulking without being a massive figure. And he's going to look really awesome alongside the other Toxic Crusader stuff. Or you could easily put him inside, your Turtles display with Muckman or Mutagen Man or any of that kind of stuff, and he's going to look right at home there too. Now, as far as some size comparisons go, let's start with other Ultimates. So we got Toxie on the left, and we've got Leo here on the right. And you can see that he kind of lines up height-wise with the Turtles, but that's because he's hunched forward. So it does make him look a little bit shorter, but he's also a lot bulkier than the other figures, front to back and side to side. Let's do a Marvel Legends figure. So here's Forge for your standard male human. Let's pull Toxie aside. Let's do a Masterverse figure. Let's do a bigger one. Here's Too Bad. Let's do a Battletoads since they're current right now. There's Zitz. And let's do one more. Let's do a figure arts. Here's Goku. The Saiyan raised on Earth Goku. So as you can see, he's fairly normal for Ultimates. He's not super big. Like I said, he looks hulking, but he's actually not. It's all based on his stature. He's kind of hunched forward. He's got some broad shoulders. He's kind of a bit thicker than usual, but overall he's not super tall compared to anything else and should fit in pretty well with most lines just by virtue of the fact that he is a mutant dog and doesn't have to be a certain height. Now, as far as accessories goes, Junkyard has a really solid spread, and it very much mimics a lot of the stuff that came with the Playmates figure as well. So to start with, we do get an extra head sculpt to mimic the Playmates figure with that tongue that can lash out. So you've got a fully open mouth with the tongue fully extended, like goes down to his waist almost if his head was pointing down. So this looks really good. I'm not so sure which one I prefer, but I really like this head sculpt. It's very 90s, very Playmates, gross kind of stuff. So of course I'm on board for that. Looks fantastic. Same good paint applications that we saw on the other head. You get 2 extra sets of hands, so he comes with gripping hands on him in the box. You get a set of style posy hands, kind of clawing hands. And then you get a set of fists, so 6 total hands. And then we get like the weaponry, this sort of stuff like that. So you get this spiked bone club. And they're done up in, I believe these are the same colors that they were in the vintage figure too. So they're like neon, yellow, green. You get the, what was this, like the anti-garbage gun or something like that, and it says beware of dog on it. No paint on these though, so I kind of wish they at least had some sort of wash on them, because there is like nasty sculpt all over these things. It could have helped just to bring it out a little bit more, but they do look really good, and again are very reminiscent of the vintage stuff. We get the little, like the battle standard thing almost. It says take a bite out of grime. Very much in line with like Toxie's American flag on the mop. This was his kind of thing. And of course, he's taken a bite out of the sign. So I do really like that. And then we also get, and this might be my favorite just because of how ridiculous it is. So this is the Toxic Times, and it's got like a nail through it, so you could see him like bashing someone in the head with this rusty nail that's sticking out of it. But this thing also glows in the dark, so you do get this as like a little bonus where it glows, where the other stuff does not. So this one's kind of a little bit different. I did, of course, mention the belt. It's not something you have to use. It's separate in the tray. You do have to put it on. I'm not sure it's really considered an accessory, but there it is, just to mention it again. But we do get some really cool stuff with this guy. I love this head sculpt. We've got really solid hands, and then all these accessories, despite the fact that they don't have paint, when I kind of wish they did have at least a little bit, they all look really good and are very nasty 90s Playmates disgusting kind of accessories. So yeah, overall, really happy with Junkyard. I think in general, he's probably one of the better Ultimates that I've taken a look at in a while now. This Playmate style of figure really does translate into Ultimates very nicely, and that's exactly what we've got going on here. Everything from the design, to the colors, to the accessories, it all works really nicely here. He even moves better than a lot of figures that we've seen lately. My only real gripes, again, are the fact that I wish there was something more at that waist, and I really don't like the belt. I like the belt, but I don't like how tight it is and how much it has to stretch to actually get around that waist. I feel like it needs to be slightly bigger just for me to have a little bit of peace of mind. Otherwise, though, I think he's absolutely solid. He's going to fit in really well with all the Toxie stuff that we get. Hopefully there's more coming. And then he's going to also fit really nicely in with just about anything you've got as far as Ultimates Turtles, too. So that's going to do it for this look at the Super 7 Ultimates Toxic Crusaders Junkyard. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.